summertime, you gotta have your shish kebabs, especially when your zucchini is coming out of the garden. So I like to slice up my zucchini when they're very small. So they're only about maybe 6 inches and they're about 1 inch and a bit round. So you like to have the nice small tender zucchini for kebabs. So I just pick them when they're small. If they get a little bit bigger, I use them for other recipes. But for kebabs, nice small zucchini works really well, and either the green or the yellow. You also want to have a bunch of peppers, red, orange, yellow. You just need a lot of color in your kebabs. If you have some mushrooms, just pull out the stems of your mushrooms so that it's going to be easier to put on your kebab. Onion, you can use red onion, regular onion. I just like to slice up bigger chunks because they do shrivel up a little bit on the barbecue. And you can use chicken or beef and just cut those up into about 1-inch cubes. Beef is very expensive, so we usually go with chicken breast and chop up our chicken breast. So I just get everything chopped up ahead of time, and we're going to put it all in a marinating container. If you don't have a marinating container, you can just put them in a bowl and cover it and just make sure you're going to stir it or turn your container every half hour or hour. Just throughout the day, the longer it marinates, the better it tastes. So I like to use just one of these Tupperware marinators because when it's sealed, then you can just flip the whole container over and it doesn't leak. So we're going to get all of our ingredients into our container and then we're going to have our marinade. So my marinade is half a cup of water. And I have 1/3 cup of soy sauce. I prefer to use this Bragg's liquid soy. There's no added sugar or salt. Soy is very salty already, so I like to use this because the ingredients in this is just soy and water. It's pure soy. And we like to have in a couple tablespoons of oil. You can use extra virgin olive oil or just cooking oil. It doesn't really matter. You just want to have a little bit of oil in there. I have a 1/4 cup of sugar, and I have Worcestershire sauce, W sauce, 2 tablespoons that we're going to put in, and I have some red wine vinegar, so 1 tablespoon. You can throw in a little bit of pepper in here, and some garlic. So I'm just going to do a couple cloves of garlic. You want about a tablespoon or so worth of minced garlic. So 2 or 3 cloves, it depends on the size of your cloves, of course. And we're going to get all these ingredients into our container, and we're going to let that marinate today. So before we actually skewer our kebabs later on, you will need to soak your bamboo skewers. So I just buy them at the dollar store. I think there was 100 in this one. Just your bamboo skewers. You need to soak them, otherwise these burn too quickly on the barbecue. So I'll just soak them for half an hour or an hour in some water before I skewer. Give yourself enough time to skewer. It takes a little bit of time. So if you're having dinner at 5:30, then maybe 4:30 or 4 o'clock, get your skewers in water for half an hour. 4:30, get everything skewered on because it takes a bit of time so that you can get them on the grill for dinner. And you can serve this with rice or quinoa, and your marinade that's going to be left over, once it's been marinating all day, there will be some drippings left in your container. I usually add a bit more water to water it down a little because it's a bit strong. And I'll add a bit of cornstarch and I'll thicken that on the stove so it creates a gravy that you can use with it. This is an excellent marinade. So I'm just going to get this all into my container. We'll just stop the video for a minute, show you what it all looks like in the container, and that's what we're going to marinate all day long. All right, just throw everything in your container and get your marinade in there. Close up our container. This container works wonderful for marinades because you can flip it around. And I'm just going to put this in the fridge every half an hour or an hour. I'm just going to flip it over, so whenever somebody goes in the fridge, I usually tell everybody in the house, if you go in the fridge, flip it over. So that way throughout the day, it just gets to soak into everything. So this is going to be a great dinner tonight. All right, so I've been skewering my vegetables and my chicken on, I usually start with a pepper and end with a pepper because the peppers slide on nice and tight. The other ones, they slide on a little bit looser, and I don't want things falling off when I'm barbecuing. So if you start and end with the pepper, that's usually the best. This one also makes 2, 4, 6, 7, about 8, maybe 9. All depends on how much you chop and put in here. I often have 10, but I didn't have quite as many peppers and stuff that I normally have. So just get them all skewered on, and then get your grill going, your barbecue, on a medium heat, and then we're going to get them on the barbecue. Alright, so my grill is heating up, so I'm also going to get my sauce ready to thicken up on the stove for a gravy. So I have about 1 cup of water, and I'm just going to strain out any bits of garlic and extra stuff in here for my gravy. And I'm going to put about 1 cup or so more of my drippings here from my marinade. And then we're going to also add some cornstarch to that. So since I got about 2 cups, I might need about 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. 1 to 2. So always add your cornstarch when your liquid is cold, otherwise it will lump. So I'm just going to get this in there, and then we're going to get that heating on the stove when our kebabs are on the barbecue. So I'm going to start maybe with 1.5 first. I don't want to put way too much in. We'll see how it's thickening when I got it on the stove. Alright, so I only used about the 1.5 tablespoons of cornstarch, which was enough. It's nice and thick, so this is perfect. I'm just going to have that set aside, so as soon as the kebabs are off the barbecue, we'll have that ready to go to add on to with our quinoa. Alright, so you make sure you scrub off your grill ahead of time. I also find what really works well is to get a paper towel soaked with some oil, just some vegetable oil, and to rub that on your burners, just so that the chicken and the vegetables don't stick quite as bad. Because when you're trying to turn your kebabs, they can tend to stick a little bit. So this just helps prevent that a bit. So we just want that greased up nice just before we go and put our kebabs on. Alright, so we've been on the barbecue about 10 minutes, so every 2 minutes or so, turn it a quarter, and then every 2 minutes later another quarter, so that you're on for about 10 minutes. Because you want to make sure that you're not going to burn one side too much, so every 2 minutes give them a turn. If you have a hot spot on your grill, make sure you move that away and just move them around so that they'll all bake up or broil up nice and even. So I think we're done here. We're going to have these for dinner tonight, so take a look at the recipe. I also have the recipe on there for the gravy, where I had 1 cup of water, 1 cup of the marinade, and about 1.5 tablespoons of the cornstarch to thicken. So serve it with rice or quinoa and the gravy, and you have yourself a fantastic dinner.